Hi everyone, Happy New Year. Welcome to 2025. This is my first live stream in year 2025. I hope you all had a great new year. Yes? Good. I took the day off and we had hot pot together. Lots of food. All right. Let's get started. I have given so much thought into this program, so I hope it's worth your time. Well, the new year has arrived, but it has not been a joyous occasion for everyone. In the US, 2025 began with an ISIS-inspired attack in New Orleans and a deadly explosion in Las Vegas. Shockingly, the suspects in both attacks were active and retired US military servicemen. In New York, the first day of the year turned bloody with two violent stabbings in the subway, occurring within just 15 minutes apart. The day before, a man was shoved onto a moving train in the subway in New York. And only a week ago, a young woman was tragically set on fire on a New York City subway train by an illegal immigrant. And she was burned to death while other passengers looked on. And across the Atlantic, Germany's New Year's Eve celebrations turned deadly as fireworks were used as experimental weapons, killing 5 people. A review of press coverage shows me that German politicians and media attributed the tragedy solely to the illegal use of fireworks, without addressing the violent intent of the individuals who weaponized them. France, Belgium, Italy also saw chaos and violence during New Year's Eve celebrations, with multiple cities reporting disturbances. And this apparently has been going on for years, for a number of years. While the motivations behind these acts of violence remain unclear, the wave of New Year's Day violence across major Western nations cast a dark shadow over 2025. In contrast, China welcomed the new year with a grand spectacle of fireworks and drone displays. Have you seen the video showing a dragon dancing in the air with fireworks? The video was showing in both state media and social media. The visual extravaganza was undeniably impressive. I was impressed. And a viral video, somebody put together a viral video. Where is that? Here it is. Yeah, here. Somebody put this together side by side. So on the left, you have the Chinese New Year celebration, and on the right is what's happening in Germany. So this video, someone posted this with a caption, where would you rather be? And a commentator replied, okay, enough of this video. So yeah, it's awful. It's awful. Let me come back. So yeah, the caption read, where would you rather be? And a commentator replied, the decline of the West and the rise of the East are happening right before our eyes. Don't blame China. Blame the policymakers in your own country instead. While Chinese citizens and some observers marvel at the stability and the resilience displayed by the world's largest communist nation, I should say staged stability and staged resilience displayed by the world's largest communist country. On New Year's Day, right? Of course, we know that's fake. But now you know why Xi Jinping continues to champion his vision of the East rising, the West declining, as recently reported by the Wall Street Journal 10 days ago. I truly believe that he wholeheartedly believes it. The footage of Berlin, Brussels, Milan, and New Orleans, and New York City have convinced him of that. Now, what's the point of me mentioning that? Well, on January the 2nd, Beijing hosted a ceremony. Where is that? Oh, here we go. I can't see. Lei is visually challenged. Here we go. Oh, here we go. Sorry. Lei is visually challenged. Okay, so this was January. This was today. Beijing hosted a ceremony to inaugurate the Research Center for Humanity's Common Destiny. The event, attended by Foreign Minister Wang Yi, celebrated the establishment of an academic institute dedicated to advancing Xi Jinping's vision for the future of humanity. We live in an era of profound confusion, where good and bad, truth and falsehood are so intertwined that distinguishing one from the other has become increasingly difficult. So as I was reading the New Year's coverage from China and also from the West, I just remember a famous quote from Charles Dickens' novel, A Tale of Two Cities. And this is the quote. You probably have all heard about it. It reads like this. It was the best of times. It was the worst of times. It was the age of wisdom. It was the age of foolishness. It was the epoch of belief. It was the epoch of incredulity. It was the season of light. It was the season of darkness. It was the spring of hope. It was the winter of despair. We had everything before us. We had nothing before us. We were all going direct to heaven. We were all going direct to the other way. In short, the period was so far like the present period that some of its noisiest authorities insisted on its being received for good or for evil in the superlative degree of comparison only. I feel the above passage accurately described our turbulent time, marked by contrasting mentalities, perspectives, realities, and emotions. These contrasts and tensions are mirrored in the current geopolitical landscape, right? So the violence or disarray and policy failures afflicting major Western countries ironically stand in stark contrast to China's carefully curated and staged image of stability, advancement, and unity. However, we should not discredit Xi Jinping's narrative of East rising and West declining quickly and laugh at his vision for a common community of, his community of common destiny. I know oftentimes in my program, we, take his vision apart. I mean, we ridicule his vision, but maybe we shouldn't be so complacent. Maybe we have been a little bit too complacent and underestimated the CCP's ability to achieve its goals. As we move into 2025, the challenges in Sino-US relations are immense. And I want to highlight 3 countries that are of great concerns to me. Because 1, they play an important role in Sino-US relations. And 2, they may be making the mistake of being a little bit they may be making the mistake of being complacent when it comes to understanding CCP's threats. So that's what I want to focus on. Because when I look at, for the past couple of days, when I look into the future, when it comes to Sino-US relations, because that's my area of focus. There are other challenges around the world in the US, but my area of study is US-China relations. And so when I look at everything that's upcoming, but what's on my mind are 3 countries and regions There are Taiwan, Japan, and South Korea. So we'll talk about them one by one. So first things first, challenges in Taiwan. Given the amount of political cleansing and struggles ongoing in the CCP and also in the PLA, the chances for Xi Jinping to launch war on Taiwan in the near future or in 2025 is seriously not high. However, the risks of CCP's subversive activities in Taiwan and CCP's comprehensive efforts to take Taiwan from within is very high, and I think has been underestimated. Recently, two Taiwanese influencers released two-part documentaries exposing CCP's United Front work on the Taiwanese. Yeah, here's I think part 2. This is part 2 of the documentaries. What happened was two men, a YouTuber named Ba Chong, and a rapper named Mingnan Wolf, pretended to be Taiwanese supporters of the CCP, to be invited to the CCP's Taiwan Entrepreneurship Park in Fujian, China. While there, they recorded conversations with the United Front officials about the specific work the CCP is undertaking to recruit Taiwanese to work for them. The CCP basically, the highlight of the programs is that the CCP offers any Taiwanese who's willing to start a business in the mainland an initial capital worth up to $27,000 as soon as they land. In addition, these Taiwanese are provided loans worth $27,000 to $54,000. I mean, these are loans in Chinese yuan, but I converted everything to dollars because people have asked me to. They say that it's helpful to them when I convert it to Western currencies. So yeah, so they will be provided up to $27,000 initial capital up front after they land in China. And then they will be provided loans up between $27,000 to $54,000 that they're not obligated to pay back. And then they will get a Chinese resident card in a month. And the CCP will also, look for dates for them, for girlfriends and boyfriends for them. So the offer is so lucrative that if you have nothing, basically it's so lucrative that you have nothing to lose, right? All you have to do is show up, and then you have money and a business and possibly even a girlfriend. So it attracts those Taiwanese who may be struggling economically or emotionally in Taiwan. And it's said that in Xiamen alone, 4,000 Taiwanese are waiting to sign up for this program. And the Taiwanese influencers revealed that over 100,000 Taiwanese have already enrolled in this program and obtained mainland Chinese resident cards. And the number will reach 200,000. So these Taiwanese are also encouraged to participate in Taiwan's democratic process, and they can apply for funding from the mainland if they want to be active in politics. So now think about it. Taiwan only has a total of 23 million people. So in a population of 23 million, 200,000 is 10% of the population. These Taiwanese with dual residencies can influence Taiwan's elections and be CCP's operative in Taiwan. On New Year's Eve, I want to show you this giant monitor in Taipei was playing mainland Chinese, the CCTV's New Year's Eve program. Now, CCTV's programs are full of brainwashing and propaganda, but they do have a large presence in Taiwan. So I think the Taiwanese government should not allow allow CCP propaganda on the island. So I think overall, Taiwanese people have underestimated CCP's ability to influence Taiwanese, and the risk of a soft takeover of the island from within is high. In addition to the 200,000 Taiwanese holding dual residencies, Taiwan also has 380,000 mainland Chinese who are married to Taiwanese. So the combined 500,000 people is more than a quarter of Taiwan's total voters, right? Taiwan has 23 million people, but I think the registered voters is 19 million. It seems high because unless Taiwan's population is older, but almost 20 million out of 23 million population seems high. But anyways, the stated size, the official size of voter is 19 million, close to 20 million. So there will be the combined 500,000 people with connections to the mainland is more than 25% of Taiwan's total registered voters. So in the event of war in the Taiwan Strait, the United States has two major allies in the Far East, South Korea and Japan. However, the political situation in both countries are getting a little worrisome. So now let's talk about Japan. Since Japan's former Prime Minister Fumio Kishida stepped down last September, his replacement, let me just come back because I don't have any pictures to show you. So Kishida stepped down last September. He announced his resignation in August, and a month later he stepped down. His replacement is the current Prime Minister, Shigeru Ishiba. Prime Minister Ishiba took a more pro-Beijing position. He is following the footsteps of his mentor, former Japanese Prime Minister Tanaka, who was friendly to Beijing and who was the one credited with establishing formal relations with Beijing. Recently, Taipei Times published an editorial titled Ishiba's Worrisome Flirtations with Beijing. And it reads, just like Tanaka, he tried to find his way out by appeasing Beijing. This is what he has been trying to achieve from the very beginning. Therefore, he offered an olive branch to China while trying to take advantage of all sides in the confrontation between Beijing and Washington. In his policy address on October 4th, the Japanese Prime Minister emphasized the importance of promoting a strategic and mutually beneficial relation with China through dialogue at all levels. Ishiba also said on TV that it's extremely important for Japan's Prime Minister to visit Taiwan. I think he's, making the case for his visit to China. In preparing for, I think it's in preparation for the Prime Minister's visit to China. Japanese Foreign Minister recently visited Beijing and made statements indicating a more conciliatory approach. In a meeting with the Chinese counterpart, Wang Yi, on December 25th, on Christmas Day, Iwaya, who is the foreign minister of Japan, referred to China and Japan as partners. He also proposed easing visa requirements for Chinese tourists. Could you imagine that? I just don't understand how that could benefit Japan. I mean, Japan is already inundated with international tourists. They have a rice shortage in the country right now as a result of massive international tourists. So if they ease visa requirement for the Chinese, they'll have more incoming inbound tourists. Why? And then the Chinese tourists, damage Japanese cultural relics. And I mean, it's just, I don't think that policy is going to be popular in Japan. Anyways, In a TV interview, the Japanese foreign minister said that he didn't agree or like the expression that if something happens to Taiwan, it's the same as if something has happened to Japan. He said that Japan respects the One China principle and that Taiwan and Japan don't have a formal diplomatic relations. Now, this statement is quite a deviation from Japan's previous foreign policy path. The very statement, if something happens to Taiwan, it means that something has happened to Japan, was a famous statement made by the late Japanese Prime Minister Shinzo Abe, who was a strong supporter of Taiwan and a close ally of the US. His widow was recently invited to Mar-a-Lago by President-elect Donald Trump and his wife. So in the wake of recent 2 attacks on Japanese children in China, living in China, Ishiba's waving olive branch to Beijing is indeed worrisome, and I agree with the editorial from the Taiwanese newspaper that it is indeed worrisome. And now let's talk about South Korea. The political storm is more alarming. I've talked about this in my previous program, and I want to give you an update. After President Yoon Suk-yeol was impeached for ordering martial law, his prime minister, Han Duck-soo, became the interim president, who was also impeached. Now, South Korea's deputy prime minister, Choi Sang-mok, is the acting president and acting prime minister. The country's National Election Commission refuses to investigate the election fraud that President Yoon alleged, but reportedly plans to amend the law to criminally punish those who question election integrity. And on December 31st, the South Korean Corruption Investigation Office for high-ranking officials announced that the Seoul Western District Court had approved an arrest warrant for President Yoon. The warrant specifies the charge of leader of insurrection, and is valid until January 6, 2025. It's only valid for a week. So this marks the first time in South Korea's constitutional history that an arrest warrant has been issued for a sitting president. And thousands of Yoon's supporters rallied outside the president's residence to block the law enforcement from arresting Yoon. I mean, I had some pictures, but I didn't have time to include them in the PPT. But you can find them. If you Google them, you'll find them. Mainstream media did not report them. I was told that the South Korean's mainstream media also ignore them, and they have not given the matter like a good balanced report or coverage. So yeah, so President Yoon's supporters have gathered outside. They lied on the ground, in rows to prevent the police from getting to President Yoon's residence to arrest him. President Yoon's lawyer issued a statement saying that the arrest and search warrant issued at the request of an unauthorized institution are illegal and invalid. And the statement also said that the agency investigating Yoon lacks the authority to conduct the investigation. So although the court has approved the arrest warrant, it remains unclear whether investigators and police will be able to execute the order. President Yoon's supporters vow to prevent that from happening. And the president himself declared his intent to fight alongside the people until the very last moment. And he urged the public to view the state of martial law from a broader perspective. He said that judgments regarding the emergency measures should not be limited to the immediate context, but should be analyzed against the backdrop of the broader political situation. He emphasized the opposition party's parliamentary dictatorship and violent actions have paralyzed state functions and disrupted social order, compelling him to take extraordinary measures, which is still within the authority of the presidency. And within his party, Yoon's fighting spirit has been critical to gain him support. And by the way, President Yoon was South Korea's former prosecutor general, so he is, I suppose, one of the top lawyers. So it seems that he is preparing for a political showdown with the opposition leader, Lee Jae-myung. Now, after the impeachment, most South Korean polling agencies suspended tracking. Actually, according to these polling, I mean, now we know, we learned in the 2024 US election that some of these polling agencies may not be doing their job correctly. So President Yoon suffered a very poor rating before the impeachment. So now many of the polling agencies have stopped tracking his approval rating because they're trying to make him non-relevant. However, a conservative media outlet commissioned a poll showing that Yoon's approval rating actually had risen by 12.9% since December 9th, prior to the impeachment. So according to a survey conducted by Real Meter between December 26th and 27th, and which surveyed 1,000 eligible voters nationwide, and with a margin of error of 3%, the ruling party, President Yoon's party, the People Power Party's support rate stood at 30.6%, up 0.9% from the previous week, the week before the impeachment. The opposition Democratic Party, its support rate dropped to 45.8%, down 4.5% from the previous week. So even though the opposition party enjoys a higher rate of support at 45%, but it's down 4.5% in a week. Whereas the PPP, the People's Power Party, its support rate went up almost 1%. So the trajectory of their popularity is moving the opposite direction, not in favor of the opposition party. And President Yoon's approval rating rose to 30.4%, up 12.9%. I mean, his approval rate was in the single digit, was like under 20%. And so it says that it's now 30%. And some of Yoon's supporters accused South Korea's mainstream media of not giving Yoon's supporters fair coverage. And their story, the coverage is one-sided. I don't speak Koreans, but I've seen these comments. So I hope those of you who are familiar with the politics in Korea can speak up. But interestingly, the Japanese media spoke up for the Koreans. Japanese political commentator Naito Keijin, sorry, I'm mispronouncing it, Keijin, wrote in the Japan Times that South Korea's opposition leader, Lee Jae-myung, has already been implicated in 6 criminal cases and several other allegations, which could disqualify him from running for the president. And the Japanese commentator suggested that this is the primary reason that Lee Lee Jae-min, is eager to push for Yoon's impeachment. South Korean politics currently resembles a Korean drama where the answer to the question who will go to prison, or the answer to the question who will go to prison first, remains unclear. It's hard to say at this point whether it's Yoon Suk-yeol or the Democratic Party leader Lee Jae-myung. So the Trump administration should be concerned with the constitutional crisis in South Korea. Should President Yoon be sentenced and the pro-Beijing Democratic Party leader be installed as the next Korean president, the U.S. will lose a critical ally, and China and North Korea will score a big one. China will have easy access to obtain and steal South Korea's advanced semiconductor technology, display technology, battery technology, and other biomedical technologies. The Democratic Party of Korea will control both the executive branch and the parliament, and will pass laws in favor of the CCP. The DPK, or the Democratic Party of Korea, controls the parliament now, and it wants to pass a law to prohibit companies from refusing to submit to government their trade secrets. Guess who will benefit from this law? China, right? And also, the DPK are allowing foreigners to vote in South Korea. Now, 80% of foreigners in South Korea are Chinese. They're either Chinese nationals or they're ethnic, what do you call that? Ethnic Koreans, or Korean Chinese. Is it Korean Chinese or Chinese Koreans? No, Korean Chinese. South Korea's population is 51 million. It said that 2.5 million are foreigners. So if 80% of that is Chinese, that's 2 million. So it is a significant number. I know the Chinese own a lot of real estate in South Korea. And they have targeted the elite class of the Korean society to influence them. So I think the South Koreans should stay alert and not fall into the false narratives. President Yoon has asked the court to live broadcast his impeachment trial. We don't know if he will be granted. But if not, you wonder why they can't make this public. So we'll see. In an era of superlative comparisons, the CCP hasn't always faltered. It's very successful in what it does well, which is spying, influence campaigns, and infiltration. We know President Trump will take place in less than 3 weeks, and there will be sweeping changes. Tariffs, more technological sanctions, economic decoupling are on the way. However, Taiwan, Japan, and South Korea are 3 countries strategically important for the Americans in the Pacific region, and we cannot afford to lose them to the CCP. That's what I dedicated the first program of 2025 on that subject. So that's all. That's all I have. So like I said, I have been given this subject a lot of thinking. I hope it gets people's attention. Okay, let's see. Happy New Year. David Angeron. Happy New Year, David. Michael Estrada. Thank you. Nick Fury. Texas Panda. Jay Litka. Purple. Beautiful. Where are you seeing the purple? I don't see any purple. Let's see. I'm just acknowledging my most loyal fans who are always here um, in my live streams. George Schump, I don't know how to pronounce this. Schumpf, Schumpf. Lei is challenged with pronunciation again. Someone help me, please. Authentic Austin Ron. Happy New Year. Moonwalker. Okay. Satisfied Popeye. Okay. Wow. Our Judd. Okay. Michael Estrada. All right. Let's see. Okay. Michael T. All right. Let's see. Oh, sorry. Somebody said if 500,000 Chinese dissidents in a voting, that's not 25% of the 20 million. You're right. It's 2.5%. Yeah, I missed by a decimal point. You're right. It's not 25%. Yep. What has happened to me? Sorry. Good catch. Michael Estrada. In Braveheart, King Edward said, if we can't get them out, we'll breed them out. Okay, well, thank you for sharing that. Thank you. Yeah, I'm sorry. 500,000 is not a quarter. It's 2.5%. Right. All right. Okay. All right. I don't know. They're oh, purple is from your stationary picture on your live stream prior to the start. Oh, okay. All right. I didn't know that. Okay. Chris. Okay, here's from Chris. Here's a question from Jagpreet Batra. How will India-China relation play out? Any idea? On one hand, it would be tug of war. On the other hand, they try to stay out of major conflicts. I think it's a quiet tug of war. And then, but they will try to avoid major confrontations. That has been going on for the past 8 years. Okay, all right. The election in South Korea are razor thin. Allowing the non-citizens to vote in Korean elections would tip the result in favor of the CCP for sure. Yes, that's the concerns of people. So I think we should really, it's very sad that mainstream media are not really covering the South Korean situation as much as they should. And even if they do, I think it's a little, the angle is not balanced. Yeah. All right. That's all. That's all. I think I'll end it here. I will see you over the weekend. Okay? All right. Bye-bye.